This is Tony. It is February 9th, and we have sort of an interesting story for you today, folks. Of course, the leader of this particular country here has been not around. He's been gone many days. He just seems to pop up like once a week, and of course, you have to ask yourself if it's perhaps someone who looks like him that they've employed to do this. Once in a while show up for a speech, when in reality he has went underground to avoid dealing with, or at least directly, with what's been going on above. As you've seen with the millions of people that are being affected over there right now as a result of this that we've been discussing over many videos. And it's interesting, though, also that some are now finally asking the question, where did all these millions of people go who left just before all of this happened, before they decided to lock down various cities? Millions of people left, right? Perhaps that's why we're seeing this all over the entire country now, is that they all went to their homes because it was at the time of their New Year's celebration, and that's when they usually go and visit everyone. They wanted to get out when they knew this was going to happen. Perhaps some of those people are those who are prestigious, have good positions in companies, whatever you might say, you know. These are the ones who got to leave early. Like I said, though, it looks like their own president has decided to take himself out of the picture so he doesn't have to deal with this directly. And instead, they're taking all the people in who show signs of this and essentially putting them in these, I think they call them hotels. Some of these are saying it. Look at this. Here we go. These hotels where they got them locked down, and essentially they're just left there. You know, there's nothing, there's no help being brought, of course. They're just left there to live out however many days they have left. And some of them figured it out after the fact. Of course, they are literally taking them all in like that. Okay, I had that open as well. I think it's right here. Let me see if I can show this on the screen right. Where they take them in like this to these hotels, I guess they call them, where essentially they're left there. Okay, what a nice, you know, and some of them have found out that's what it was and managed to get out. Let me show you this. You can see it right here. The ones that figured out what it really was all about. So that's, I mean, that's the kind of care they get, folks. You know, that's the kind of service you get. Now they have this as well. They're saying you'll get this for anyone that doesn't tell you the fact that whether or not you have this. You're going to get this right here. So obviously so caring and nice, you know what I mean? Right? That's what's been going on. And actually we're seeing also them starting to create these over here in America as well. All right. Let me show you this. Fill load. All right, just 1 second here. There's like a million ads. I can't believe how many ads they can put on a page. How is it you put so many ads on a page? I can't even believe this. Never mind. I can't even handle it. There's so many. All right. Apparently, they're preparing these type of centers as well in the U.S. There's like 12 of them. 12 of them now. They've raised it to 12. That's quite a few. I thought you would only need one. I thought there's only a few people. Why do you need 12 different centers? 12 in America. Okay, that's quite a few. Just a few. And so, I mean, obviously, they're talking about, I saw this over on a certain channel. Let me show you that channel here. I saw that they're actually got the same exact protocols over here in America as they do over in that particular country. The same kind of protocols where essentially, you know, they put the most important people first, and then those who may be important second, and then after that, it's, you know, if you're lucky, you might get something. You know what I mean? It's kind of what it is. This particular channel here, he was talking in his most recent video right here about this, that they have, that this lady actually spoke. She actually went over to that region, and she had spoken to someone. She was part of like a group who were discussing what they do in these type of situations. And this guy was like some sort of, he was from Europe, but he was saying that that all the countries have the same type of steps that they take whenever these type of things happen, when they're trying to lock it down. All right, so that's obviously not good. I really hope that's not the case. So, and then we have also a lot of other things going on today. I was looking around at all the different things that are going on, and there wasn't actually a lot of, I mean, this is kind of interesting a little bit, but not really. I don't know. They're saying that the people's concern over this is spreading faster than the actual strain itself. I don't know if I would agree with that, honestly, because I think you can't be more than enough ready for this thing. You know what I mean? I really don't believe that. That doesn't make any sense to me. All right? What they're saying here. That is not true. You have to be, I mean, most people are literally not at all ready for it whatsoever. They haven't bought anything. They haven't prepared in any way, shape, or form. You know what I mean? By the time that they do, it's already way past the time. Okay? Now, they're talking, of course, about who is going to be taking on the president. And they're actually consulting even artificial intelligence programs now to try to figure it out. Like, for instance, here, let me show you this. AI picks this guy. His name's Pete. As the guy that can beat the president. I don't know about that. They're also talking about Michael here, this guy here, thinking this is what those of the established, these men guys, they want to have him. Joe is obviously not doing well, so they're trying to pick someone that is sort of in the middle. He's not over on the left too far, like Bernie there. You know, they're trying to find the right person. And honestly, I don't think they have anybody that's going to be able to beat them. That's just my opinion about so far. They're not doing well. Really, they aren't. And let's see here. We also have this. I thought this was kind of curious. The surprising science behind friendship. You know, these days, with the fact that we all are too busy using things like this, you know, too busy looking at videos like mine here, you know, we can't sit down and just talk to a friend, you know, sometimes, and maybe have dinner with them or something. And it talks about the fact that this is not only for happiness and emotional well-being, but overall health, physical health. So, I mean, that's the reason why you can't, you know, you shouldn't be spending too much time on these things. or your computer, because it's just going to zap your happiness overall. You're going to have, sort of like a cycle of wanting to get back into it over and over, but in reality, it's taking your happiness and your emotional well-being in the long run. So I think that was an interesting article. Also, we have this here. They have some strange signal from space that they keep talking about that is unique, much more unique than any others that they've received. Every 16.35 days, they get these strange 1 to 2 bursts per hour over a 4-day period, and then 12 days of silence before it starts again, which is obviously very consistent. They're wondering, what is this? Is it something? Is it some sort of intelligence out there, or is it just simply, some sort of pattern with a star making noise or something? You know what I mean? It is interesting though. Could it be something more? Then we have this. This is kind of interesting. Amazon employees. They're going to have about 1 million employees in 2020. 1 million, that's a lot. If you could even imagine it. But see, it would have actually been 2 to 3 million employees if it was the same amount of employees that had been replaced by the companies that have actually had to close their chains. So all these companies closing stores, like you have JCPenney's or Payless or all these different stores out there, Sears. For every 2 or 3 employees from those companies, it's replaced by 1 for Amazon. So that million workers in 2020 would have been 2 or 3 million workers if they would have not gotten so big. So, of course, they have robots handling the rest of it. And so, obviously, Amazon has right now 800,000 full-time and part-time employees. It's a 23% increase over the same period the prior year. So every year they're going up like 20%. So they're going to have 1 million people working for the company, 500,000 alone in America itself, across 40 states. It's quite a few. So they had 13 billion in profits last year, according to this. That's quite a bit of profit. It's bringing 1,000 new jobs to its first Iowa fulfillment center. You know what I mean? So that's kind of what's going on with that. And I noticed also a lot of companies have postponed resuming their factory operations due to what's been going on in this particular country that I've been discussing. If you go down here, you can kind of see it. Here's one example with this company, Apple. And there's others as well. And there's also one down here, Volkswagen, as well. Is going to start up its plants back on February 17th. So that's what's going on with all that stuff. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below, and thanks for watching.
Today I'm going to show you how to make a superfood that'll last a lifetime without refrigeration. And it's so nutritious, you'll never have to stockpile another food. The food's called pemmican, and it was widely in use by the natives of North America and also by the Western explorers who would go for months without contact with civilization. In the 19th century, even British soldiers had an iron ration of 4 ounces of pemmican. Many of these iron rations were found intact and edible as much as 50 years later. So let's just avert our gaze from modern survival thinking for a minute, and let's think about how the guys who explored the West 150 years ago did it. Now that's exactly the kind of stuff I found in this 350-page book called The Lost Ways. It's probably the only survival book I've actually enjoyed reading, and you won't believe the survival things we've lost to history. Now I found the pemmican recipe on page 48, and I decided to give it a go. Natives used whatever was available to them at the time. Bison, elk, moose, deer, but nowadays people just use what they can buy. You just need to remember to select a low-fat red meat, and beef is perfect for this. So you'll need 6 pounds of beef, 2 pounds of rendered beef tallow, and 1/3 of a cup of strawberries or blueberries. And that's it. Don't include nuts, seeds, vegetable oils, grains, beans, or dairy products of any kind. Now the first step is to dry the meat and blueberries. First, you need to slice the meat very thin. You can use a very sharp knife like this one, or you can keep the beef in the freezer a few hours before slicing it. If you don't have a dehydrator, you can set the oven to the lowest possible temperature, around 130 degrees, and put the strips of meat directly on the rack. So now place a tin foil on the right side of the rack and spread the blueberries out to dry with the meat. Place the rack back inside and crack the oven door to prevent moisture buildup. Let this dry for about 15 hours or until it's crispy. 150 years ago, people dried their meat by building a wooden pyramid over a small fire and hanging the meat slices on that. After 15 hours, this is what you should get. Toss it in the food processor until it becomes a powder. Do the same with the blueberries. In the old days, they'd grind it with a rock to crush it into a powder. Generally, well-dried meat will weigh just slightly less than 1/3 of its raw weight. Therefore, 6 pounds of raw lean meat will yield about 2 pounds of thoroughly dehydrated meat. For our next step, we need to cut the fat into small pieces about a 1/2 inch square. So place the fat in a pot on the stove and heat it up to a temperature between 225 and 250 degrees. Now, you don't gain anything from getting it any hotter than that other than destroying the fatty acids, which we want to do as little as possible. Now for the first 10 minutes you want to keep this on medium-high heat, and you want to stir it about every minute, and this will allow enough of the fat to be liberated to coat the bottom of the pot without burning the bottom of the fat. After about 10 minutes, you'll see a pool of fat forming on the bottom of the pot, which should be merrily boiling away. You can rest a little bit now and stir it maybe only every 5 minutes, just to keep things well mixed. After about 30 minutes, the liquid fat should have risen enough to cover the chunks, and it should look like a rolling boil. So as this liquid rises, you can go ahead and lower the temperature down to about 230. After about an hour, the major boiling action will have stopped, and there'll just be small bubbles rising from the fat. About 90% of the cracklings will be a chestnut brown in color. So use a strainer to separate these and set them aside with salt to enjoy as snacks later. They're really, really good. And if you don't like them or don't want to eat them, you can set them aside to cool for dog treats. So good. Oh, yeah, that's good. Sammy, you want one? Come here. We now have to weigh the amount of ground meat and the amount of rendered animal fat. We have to have the same quantities, so you'll probably have to remove some of the excess fat. Place the remaining fat on the stove. Keep it about 120 degrees. Mix the shredded meat into the melted fat and stir it until it's well blended. Then add the blueberries and mix it again. This is how it should look. The fat should be absorbed or coating the meat fibers. There should be very little or no liquid fat pooling in the bottom of the pot. Now, following the instructions from the Lost Ways, you can store it in Ziploc plastic bags and press flat, removing as much air as possible, and therefore preventing the fat from going rancid. This should keep the pemmican from spoiling for a few years without refrigeration. So let's do that. And here's what I got. Pemmican is the ultimate survival food, no matter if you want to bug out or bug in. 10 pounds of pemmican would supply food for 2 full weeks of camping activities at 3/4 of a pound per day, providing 2,200 calories. In survival mode, the same 10 pounds of pemmican would supply energy for almost a full month. This was just one awesome chapter in the Lost Ways, but you won't believe the survival skills we've lost to history. And that's what this book is all about, saving our forefathers' skills. But I actually realized it's also about saving ourselves from the shallow world that we live in. Click below to find out how you can get your hands on one of the greatest books of this century.